Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising.
Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, Misty Rose Gold, International Success Coach, and today I have with me Jordan Pendleton. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much
Oh,
for having me on.
wonderful. I'm excited to have you.
I love the title of your podcast. It just like speaks to my soul. So I can't wait to see where
Oh,
our conversation goes.
okay. I love that response. Well, before we dive into that,
Yeah.
please tell us, what do you do?
I am a money and mindset coach. So, working right now primarily with couples and how to get on the same page about money.
Mm,
So, really coming in when couples are butting heads, having they're just communication around finances is falling apart and everything that they're trying just doesn't seem to work. It doesn't seem to stick. And yeah, helping facilitate that process and actually have communication and conversations that get you
mm.
somewhere.
Man, I love that. There are so many people that get divorced because of money.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest leading reasons. I believe that it's not actually money that is the problem because I think money is always like a mirror of something deeper going on, but money a lot of times takes most of the fall, and can cause a lot of issues.
Yeah, for sure. We don't communicate well, but we're gonna blame it on money. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots of things.
Oh, there's just so much that gets tied up in money. Like
Yeah.
money just is loaded. For most people, it is like a loaded, emotional, hard
Hmm.
subject to broach.
Hmm.
And marriage is hard. Like
Yeah.
marriage has its own challenges. So money plus marriage, and we're not taught any of this stuff. So those two things together, it can be like just pouring gasoline on a dumpster fire and just
Yeah.
explosive.
So two toughest topics I think in relationships are money and sex. So
Yeah.
you've got one covered.
Yes. Which they both kind of like overlap too. They
Yeah.
can
Everything's
interfere with each
affects,
other.
sure. Everything affects everything.
Yeah.
Before we dive into this delicious topic about money and couples arguing about the stuff, tell me more about what intrigues you with the title Wealthy Mind.
Well, for a long time, I was a financial advisor. Before my coaching career, I was a financial advisor. So I spent a lot of time in this wealth conversation, but that conversation lent itself to how do you get money? How do you protect it? How, like, it was just all about money. Wealth became all about money. And that is what happened to me too, being in the industry and just my upbringing, it was just the whole focus of wealth was around accumulation and consumption. And once I, started to become more successful as an advisor, I also started to go farther into debt. And so while I knew all these principles and tactical things, it wasn't until I really understood what was going on inside of me and my mind, my body, my spirit, like in relation to money, that I
Hmm.
actually was able to get a firm grasp of what wealth really is. And I do believe that it starts within us, within our mind. So I love that title because it starts there and
I love it.
we can't skip steps.
Uh, People try, they think they can, but yes, that's
Oh,
where it
I've tried
starts,
all the time. I've tried so many ways to skip that step. I wish you could, but you can't.
right? You're like, Misty, if I could get away with skipping the step of my mind, trust me, I would have figured it out by now.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
That's
Sadly,
awesome.
those things all led me into more debt and more
Mhm.
consumption, more,
Mhm.
needing always needing more. So until I understood
Right.
that like inner world and like the programming around money and what was really going on a subconscious level,
Mhm.
like there was no chance of me ever actually being like materially wealthy.
I love it. And you kind of touched on something that is very important for all of us to understand is if you catch yourself stuck in that cycle of always needing more, always wanting more, guess what? You're not fulfilled. Yeah. So what's the point? Like seriously, what's the point of life if we're not fulfilled? If we're on this constant like hamster wheel of chasing something that's not fulfilling us, then why?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I hit that very real point.
Mhm.
I call it my quarter life crisis.
Oh, nice.
But it wasn't a midlife crisis. It was my 25th year of life, and it just happened to
Mhm.
be that of very much questioning, what am I doing? Like, why am I just always trying to make more money, get more money? Like I was chasing more and more and more. And yeah, it was just never enough. It was never enough.
Why was that?
Because, after doing a lot of that work, a lot of more of the inner work and looking at my brain and what was going on, it was this unfulfilled the unfulfillment was coming from my lack of self acceptance, my lack of
Mhm.
self-worth. Even though I portrayed to the world that I was very confident and that I had it all together and that I was
Mhm.
all good, like I had very deep internal feelings of doubt about myself, of my worth. And so I tried to get it through stuff, through things, through, you know, more courses, doing what was like socially, admirable or acceptable. But
Mhm.
until I realized that I was enough, it could never be enough. The things outside of me could never be enough because it's just a hole that never gets filled.
Mm. Wow. I'm so glad that you're openly sharing about this because so many people are just on that little hamster wheel and they're unfulfilled. It's like, okay, but why? Well, society says that we need this. That's one of the things that you have to break down, especially like in your realm with money. What does society tell you you have to have? Well, is it real? Is it true? Is it fulfilling? These are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves in order to get to the point that you got to, which is like, all right, I'm getting off this effing hamster wheel because I'm not
Yeah.
fulfilled. Now, how do I make myself fulfilled? Oh, crap. Wait, I'm looking for the truth. And now the truth means that I don't have great self-worth. Oh, shit. Wait, hold on. I don't love myself. What? What? You got to be
Yeah.
kidding. Like, how painful was that process?
Oh, so painful. Like it was pretty dark days for a bit. I think just cuz I put so much of my worth in everything else, and when all those things started disappearing, fading, as I started to say no to those things, it was like this empty, yeah, like it's an empty slate. And that can be very like confusing and disorienting.
Hmm.
But I think like right before we like quotes find ourselves, we feel really lost. And so there was a season of just feeling really lost and confused because so much of my perception of life and the world was like built around this, being hooked into everything else and getting my worth from everything else but
Hmm.
myself.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, it was a painful process, but now one that I'm so glad. And I don't think if it hadn't been for debt and had it not been for some like health challenges, I don't think I would have ever had to look at it. So I think those like really painful and relationship pain was also
Hmm.
something that made me have to look at these things. And I'm so glad I did. And now just like love to invite other people into that if they're feeling those pains, because it's
Mhm.
not forever. It's not forever.
Right. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could be proactive and like get to that place of, hold on, this isn't right, before life has to really kick us in the teeth or knock us upside the head, you know? Like that's one of the things I learned early on is how proactive can I be? Because I do not
Yeah.
like it when life beats me up. Like I don't. No. Can I
Yeah.
say F no to that? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And like life stuff that like there is stuff in life that's always going to be hard
Hmm.
too. But it's if we are in a different posture of that proactive, like we are so much more strengthened to endure that challenge instead of like, yeah, like I had to go down and get get kicked in
Uh-huh.
pretty hard. But I think once you realize that, I realize, oh, my body's giving me signals. My money's giving me signals. Like
Hmm.
there's these things that I can pay attention to before that happens, and things that I'm doing and engaging with that are going to lead me down a not productive path, or you just get better tools and how to navigate that to keep yourself moving forward and leaning into
Hmm.
the pain instead of running away from it, because
Hmm.
that causes a lot more pain in the long run, is like running away from the pain.
Yeah, tell me about it, girl. I mean, this is at at a fundamental level in both of our worlds as coaches, we experience that, right? I experience it with clients for different reasons, or maybe some of the same reasons. That's okay. For people who are not running and for people who are being proactive, let's talk to them right now. They're
Yeah.
being proactive. They're like, shit, I'm learning from this person's mistakes. I'm learning from my old mistakes and I don't want to keep making them, right? So they're being more proactive.
Hmm.
Walk us through that journey. Walk us through the journey of, all right, I want to be proactive. I don't want to have financial arguments with my spouse. How can they go down that path? And yes, there's going to be pain. Yes, there's going to be discomfort. Yes, there's going to be the unknown. That's part of change. It's part of growth. It's part of stepping out of our old patterning and creating a new pattern.
Yeah.
But please take us on that journey so they know what to expect. You can't tell us everything, of course,
Yeah.
but
Give you the
what
high
are
level.
yeah, the commonalities that they can expect if they're going to be proactive in this space?
Well, first things first, I think that is the biggest distinguisher, is why so many of our financial conversations don't get us anywhere, is because we are approaching them in a very reactive manner. So if you're
Mm,
waiting for the big credit card bill or the tax lien on your house, or like something big, usually a lot of times will set off, and then you're already in a state of fear. You're
mm,
already in a state of protection when you're trying to engage in these conversations, which only furthers division and furthers disconnection. So the biggest thing is like, I don't work with a lot of people when they're in the fire. Like we have to take a step back, because it is a very intentional shift to being proactive and having a lot of these hard conversations when things aren't when the house isn't on fire.
mhm,
Like, we can't have these when the house is, like, literally all on fire, but if we keep noticing ourselves in a pattern, a collision point, then now is the time. Now is the time, so that you can actually understand, we gotta pull back a bit and look at the bigger picture
mhm,
of what actually matters to you as a couple, and where are you going? What does wealth actually mean to you? Because like you said, like societally, culturally, like we're given a definition of wealth, but that might not be your definition of wealth. So you got to define that for yourself. Understand, like, why are we in this? What do we care about? Where are we going? So that because everything else starts to flow from that.
mhm.
How you set up, how you spend, how you save, how you invest, how you give, like everything comes from your values, your vision, like what matters to you.
I agree with that 100%. And I do want to emphasize the importance of being on the same team fighting for the same goal. because a lot of couples are on their own team in a marriage, thinking that somehow it's going to magically work if they're focused on themselves. But
Mhm.
no, 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 no. And this works in business too. Like this is what I work with my CEOs and my business owners and executives is teaching them how to focus on the health of the business, not what they want, not their selves, but the health of the company. Now, if couples were to focus on the health, their financial health, and the goals that they can set, like common goals to work toward, OMG, it would be amazing, right?
Yes. And that's why I'm like, do this before you get married. Like do it because it can be, and I think a lot of people get into this where they don't have these conversations, and I believe it can absolutely be repaired. But if you have completely different visions, completely different values, completely different desires for your future, how you want to raise your children, how you want to, if you have completely different things, then like, why are you getting married? Because it is the point of marriage is to come together to create something together.
Mm-hmm.
And to, it's not just to like look pretty and do the marriage thing. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
our culture has become very much about the wedding and not the marriage. And how do we actually create a marriage that's aligned in values, aligned in vision, aligned
Mm-hmm.
in where in unifying where you're going? Because that's the point.
Yes,
That is the point to live out your purposes as individuals and as a couple together and be better together.
100%. I mean, as a single person myself, if I'm dating somebody, I look at their spending habits. I look at what do they do with money? Because if they're frivolous with money now and just, they don't have good spending habits or healthy spending habits, they're not going to have them when we get married. Like, that's not going to magically change because you flipped a switch.
Yeah, no, yeah, the marriage is not the catalyst. The catalyst, because that's kind of the next part, is really understanding why do you do what you do with money? Because
Mhm,
I was not the most responsible with money for a
mhm.
long time. Mostly because I wasn't clear on step one. I was just
Right.
spending to keep up, spending to look good, spending,
To get the
spending.
temporary fix within because you felt empty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really understanding why do you do what you do with money? And then why does your partner do what they do with money? Like
Mhm,
for real. We all have very deep family histories and lineages that get passed down, stories that get passed down about money,
mhm.
but then also our own personal experiences, especially in our upbringing, our childhood, that shapes why you do what you do with money. So because everybody can, talk a good game and say, line out a budget of exactly how you want to spend your money, but does it actually line up? Because, and I believe it can absolutely be improved, healed, repaired,
Sure.
and, kind of bridging that gap between how you want to spend money and how you actually spend money. But there is a
Mhm.
process between that that's not just being super like strict, but a lot of times the couples I work with, like, they're so judgmental about how the other person spends, and instead of getting really curious about why they're spending that way, what's going on
Mhm.
here? Why do they keep doing this thing? And just opening up more conversation about the backstory that we're all coming into marriage and into our relationships
Mhm.
with.
Yes.
Because I've had to very actively, and my husband and I together have looked at that and like that, either like these are the things we want to continue that we feel are serving of that bigger vision, and then here are some things that like we don't want to do, that we don't want to perpetuate, and that's a very intentional choice.
Mhm.
But it takes that awareness, like why do you do what you do with money?
Oh, yeah. And I'm aware of that because I've had to heal my own money stories and all the crap I heard from my family about money. And I'm just like, oh God, I had to reprogram so much of myself around it. So much. So for single people,
Hmm.
what is like the most important advice that you can give them as they entertain a life partner or a spouse?
Do this work now within yourself and know what matters most to you. Why do you do what you do with money? What and then like another part of my coaching is around the emotional things and like understanding your emotional responses to things.
Hmm. Hmm. But
But
why is it important to do the work now? Like, what is the carrot that they're going to strive for? Because most people are like, personal growth. No, I don't want to. Right? There has to be a big enough reason for somebody to do the work. What is the reason for a single person to do the work now?
I think to align with the person that is going to be really incredible for you. I think money gets it wrapped like so much gets wrapped up in it. Like our relationship with money can be very reflective of our relationship with people.
Hmm.
So doing this work around money will actually help you bring in the person that you're designed to be with and that you are aligned with. And so when you're clear on your values, what you want, where you're going and can get cleaned up in how you approach money, you're actually going to open up so much more space for a person to come alongside of you and not hook into codependent behaviors with them because money is what I think that's why it gets so much blame for divorce is that money is this hook, this codependent like hook that we all can get into. And
Hmm.
so I know for me, like speaking personally, before I got married, I was like independent woman. I'm an independent woman, like big career, like I want all these these things and a lot of that was because of my relationship with money and what I thought money was going to do for me. Little did I know that was closing me off to intimate relationships because I was in such a codependent relationship with money
Hmm.
that I was then so unaccepting, unopen to even now I have to continue. Still a practice to be open to receiving from my husband and like to actually work together. And so much of that was hung up in money. And so not that it's wrong to be an independent woman or anything like that, but it
Right.
can definitely get in the way of a healthy marriage if you are hyper independent.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
because I think that's just the flip side. It's the same, it's a codependent pattern as being hyper independent. I do it all
Hmm.
by myself. I do it for myself by myself. I don't need anybody. So if you believe that, there's usually some ties around money too.
Yeah, thank you for making the connection between codependency. Either you're hyper independent or you're too codependent of another person, right? And
Yeah.
how that ties to money, it's so important. So thank you for speaking to the single population. And why are we doing it? Why are we doing the work? Why is it so important? Oh my God, wait, if I do the work now, I'm going to attract somebody that has healthy money habits. And wait, hold on. If they have healthy money habits, we could actually have a healthy relationship that lasts. Oh my goodness gracious.
And have healthy, open, really like conversations about money because
Mhm.
most of the time we're having to do a lot of backtracking and building safety into the relationship around this conversation. And you can feel safe in yourself coming into a relationship, safe around talking about money, safe around like money in general. Like if you
Mhm.
feel a sense of being at peace and safe in this conversation of money, you are already light years ahead of most couples that sometimes never even get there. They never feel safe around having a conversation about money. It's explosive or shut down. We just avoid, like that's, that feels terrible at the end of the
Mhm.
day. Just be stuck in that pattern.
Yes. So what I'm hearing from you is that you can help your clients feel safe to talk about money and to maybe figure out ways to communicate it instead of having it be an emotionally charged conversation. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
That's really, really, really important. So whoever is listening and you really want to have a healthier conversation with your spouse about money, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to Jordan for that because it is vital. Like, you don't want something as simple as money coming between you and the love of your life. Like, I think that's stupid. Just, I'm going to call it like it is. I think it's absolutely stupid. You would rather destroy love to protect money, or would you rather have uncomfortable but healthy conversations around money to protect love?
Oh, that's good.
Like, seriously, let's just
Truth.
be real. I get so fed up with people throwing love away for money. It's one of the things that irks me.
Yeah, and it's not we're not doing a good job talking about it, culturally as well. I think a
Mm.
lot of people come at this of like, well, you got to like protect yourself going into a marriage because half of marriages fail. Like, you got to protect yourself. Like, we're going into it with this mindset that it's like 50-50. We're not actually like it's 50-50 of whether we're going to make it, but then also we're saying it's 50-50 of our stuff, and like we're going to still split things and split. It's like that's like where we become one in
Mhm.
marriage. We become one. And so I understand that, and that would be very painful to walk through that. But if we're setting ourselves up for that, we're preparing and protecting ourselves going into a marriage, like we're kind of just going to live out a self-fulfilling prophecy
That
if
is gonna
that's
fail.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to look for what we believe to be true. And so we have to be willing to work through those fears and like let
Mhm.
down our guards to build that safety to work together. And it's one of my there's a quote, I'm going to totally butcher it.
Okay,
But just to your
please.
point about like um giving up or letting money kind of take over instead of fighting for love is Richard Rohr. He's a Franciscan friar. He talks about like how love is meant to change us. Like,
Mhm.
we are meant to, like, if we really love somebody,
Mhm.
then we should be willing to change for them. And that when we're not, then we don't really love the person. And so I think a lot of times, like, I've kind of chalked that up to be like, we get into these fights and arguments and our beliefs are colliding, but
Mhm.
a lot of times we're fighting for a belief that doesn't even serve us.
Right.
Are you fighting for a limitation
Mm.
and something, a protection? Are you fighting for that? Or are you fighting for a vision of what's possible and the future and the love that you have for each other? And that is a decision we have to make. And
Mhm.
a lot of times people just want to be right because we want to be seen and heard and understood. But that's where, if you create the safety within the relationship,
Mhm.
then you will be seen and heard and understood. But we're gonna have to let go of some beliefs that don't serve us either. Because
100%.
if you don't, then I don't think you really love your partner, and I don't think you really love yourself,
Yeah.
because we're just continuing to perpetuate lies and things that aren't helpful.
Things that are self-centered. So this is a key to success in any relationship, be it your business, if you're a business owner, if you're an executive in charge of a company, or if you're in a relationship with a partner, a spouse. We have to be focused on the health of the entity or the health of the relationship, not ourselves. And what is healthy for the relationship should trump anything else. But so many
Absolutely.
times, like, I am divorced and single and currently looking for a partner that is a good fit for me. And there are things that I have to evaluate from experience because I want to make sure that I'm not caught in the trap of being too independent, but I have to evaluate what I'm letting in.
Mm-hmm.
So is it healthy for me? Am I letting in somebody that has very toxic spending habits with their money? Is that good for me? No, it's not. Now, are they willing to take a look at their finances and correct that spending habit? Because there's no way on this planet that I would get married again if somebody had horrible spending habits because I'm very smart with my money. And I would love to have financial success with another human being. Now, the other side that I have to look at is if I get with somebody that's a millionaire or has a ton of money, right? Which is very likely, is he looking at absorbing me? Is he
Mm,
looking at being the dominant force in the relationship because he has more money? These are things that we have to evaluate, and most people don't take time to sit and think about these things. They're just like, "Oh, he's cute. I want to go have sex with him. Great. Now we're in a relationship." It's like, no, slow it the F down. There's much more to it than that.
yeah.
Like, seriously. And so this is a side of dating and relationships and money that you probably don't hear a lot about is because from a woman's perspective, being a feminine female, I'm not a masculine female, I'm a feminine female, and I attract very powerful masculine men. And because I do, most of them think I should just fit straight into their world and they disregard mine.
Mm,
And that's financially too, because they might make more than I do. Guess what? I'm going to dismiss Misty. Or every decision has to be based on what I want because I'm the breadwinner or I make more. Yes, she has her own income, but I make more. That type of thing. So
mhm.
it's that very one-sided selfish view. And there's no way that I'm getting into a relationship until a man comes into my world and says, I'm here for the health of the relationship.
Yeah,
Not me, not my ego, but the
yeah,
health of the relationship. Like that is everything. And I don't care what I have to change in my world to be with that person. I am doing it. Like, but I'm not doing it until that guy comes. Like I'm not changing all the things in my world for a toxic relationship. Not doing that, right?
yeah,
So there has to be time. There has to be an evaluation. There has to be like, yeah, you might have this hot chemistry with somebody, but slow it down enough to really assess if is this person compatible? Are we compatible? Am I willing to make those internal changes for this individual? Am
yeah,
I willing to work less to spend more time with this person? Well, if the person is toxic, no, I'm not. But if that person comes to me and creates that safe space that you were talking about, I'll work less. I'll figure out a way to work less. But until then, no, I'm not giving up my time for you to ruin my life. Like, excuse me. And like nowadays, there's just this in the dating world, there's an expectation that I should put up with toxic behavior. And that's nuts to me.
yeah,
I'm sorry. I can't. So this whole conversation around money brings all that up because
yeah,
if we're not setting those boundaries around the relationship, around our worth, our value, and this is where it all comes down to. You talked about your worth and value. My worth and value is so incredibly strong that no, if you expect me to be in a toxic relationship with you and you're not willing to grow with me, bye. Like, I'm good being single.
yeah,
If you're not willing to have the hard conversations with me about money and the health of that, what does that look like for you? If you have poor spending habits, are you going to work on that? Because I'm certainly not going to marry you if you do. You know
yeah,
what I mean? If you expect me to fit into your world, I'm not going there either. Like all of these things are so important, and especially with your clients and how they're addressing the money conversation. So, from all the things that we've talked about today, including my side of the fence, which is single dating, divorce single dating. That's a different side of the fence. With your clients, they're married, they're in a couple, they're committed, they're in a partnership, right? You're working with couples primarily,
yeah, most.
mostly, right?
Mhm.
They're arguing about money. They're like, the guy is like, I want to kill my wife. She spent $500 on a pair of shoes, but he doesn't say
These
anything,
Amazon packages keep
right?
showing up. Yeah.
Right? All this nasty chatter inside their head that hardly ever makes it out their mouth. And if it makes it out their mouth, God forbid, like that's a whole nother level. But all that nasty chatter inside of somebody's mind about their spouse, that destroys the
Mhm.
relationship from the inside out. So, would you say that it's fair that we need to go back to the beginning Yes, they're in the relationship already. We can't change that. We're not going to change that. What we're going to do is hopefully save the relationship.
Yeah.
But would you say that we need to go back to the beginning and set a better foundation? Let's rip up the old foundation and create a new one, because they need to look at how they entered the marriage in the first place, how they entered the relationship in the first place, correct?
Yeah. Hmm.
All right. So in that space, as couples are thinking all these horrible thoughts about each other and causing massive separation and disconnection, what can you advise them to do to just bring some simplicity to this process and help to rebuild that foundation so they can have something healthy with each other?
I always just bring people back to their wedding day. Like, come back to your
Mm,
wedding day, visually, mentally, like, take yourself back there, because this probably wasn't what you had envisioned, right?
mm,
But you did have a vision. There was something, there was things that you were so hopeful and excited and wanting to create with your relationship, with your marriage. Um, and sure, maybe it's devolved from that, but bringing yourself back to like that original why,
the emotion.
the emotion, like
Yeah.
taking yourself back there. Like my husband and I just had our 6th wedding anniversary yesterday, so we watched our vows again. And so if you have that, like go back, listen to what you said about your partner, listen to what you promised them, because we say it all in there,
Hmm.
and there's such weight and meaning that I think we can really skip over, and just time happens, jobs, different, kids, that there's just so much life that can happen no matter how long away you get from that marriage date. But come back to it, reground yourself in that original why, that
Mm,
original love that you had for your partner. Like you said, it is going to be a rebuilding process, but just like it's never too late. It's never too late. Do you want to die like in having resentment and frustration and anger for your partner? Or do you want to work on it and start to like it might take time. It's going to take time and energy, but there is mending and ways that we can start to turn towards each other instead of always constantly turning away from each other. So I think that's just
yeah,
always kind of brings me back, and get yourself centered around the why so that you can like endure for some of the work and the hard conversations that you're
I love that.
might be having.
It's bringing people back to your wedding day. You got married for love. Love should be the primary focus. And if it is, you'll do anything to fight for it,
And
right?
if you do have kids, like this is you're fighting for the future. Everything you are doing around money is getting directly transferred to your kids.
Mm,
Like, I know that that's
it's
hard to
true.
hear,
It's
but it's
true.
so true, because if you look back, you got your stories from your parents and their parents. So, you making that decision to really do that, like, don't do it for the kids, do it for you, do it for the relationship, but your kids are the direct uh legacy of this. So do you want them to live with a, terrible image of money, of what's possible, mom and dad always fighting, arguing? Like, probably not. Like, if you get
Mm,
really real with yourself, that's probably not what you want. So there is a very, very direct impact that this can have, and very quickly if you start to turn towards your spouse instead of away from them.
preach, girl. I love it. And it affects generations to come. So if you want to be a part of the solution of our fucked up society, do right by your spouse and do right by your kids. Yes, yes,
For
I said the
real.
F word. It's probably the first time I've said the F word on a podcast.
Bring the heat. I love it.
But I'm dropping the F bomb because we have our heads so far up our asses these days, and we have lost sight of what is truly important. And it is connection, it is love. And so many people are dying inside because they lack that. And yes, I will drop the F bomb around this subject every day, all day long, because it is so vital to our society. It is so vital to humanity. It is so vital to us becoming better as a
Mhm.
whole. and this world becoming a better place. Mm,
Yeah,
mm. All right, girl.
it is.
Woo!
And your fulfillment's like right there. I think we're looking for it like in all the wrong places usually.
Right. And it's not that
Fulfillment's right.
complicated.
It's really not. We just
It's
have to
so simple.
undo the stories and unlearn some of the stuff that we've hung on to and clung on to for a long time. So
Mm,
it's not far. It's not far. It is simple. It's not easy. It is simple though.
correct.
The truth
Yes.
is always simple.
Mm. Thank you for a very, very, very powerful and impactful and emotionally driven conversation. I am so grateful that you have come on our podcast. And I'm so grateful that our listeners are going to have an opportunity to hear you and to just absorb this. And I hope they put this podcast on repeat until it freaking sinks in. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so anyway, y'all, it is
Thank you.
time that we need to get wrapped up. So we're going to switch gears. What is your favorite way to keep a wealthy mind?
Do a lot of meditating, journaling, prayer. Those are kind of in my daily routine, as well as fitness has been something that keeps me
Mm,
really in tune. Health and fitness as a priority.
love it. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Jordan, if people want to reach out to you and they want to stop arguing, they want you to be their go-to advisor when they catch themselves arguing with their spouse. How do they get in touch with you?
My website is jordanpendleton.com, and I'm mostly on Instagram at this point, at Jordan Talks Money on Instagram.
Okay. Can you spell your name for us so that people can find you?
Jordan, Jordan, Pendleton, Pendleton.com.
Awesome. Well, girl, thank you for an amazing conversation. And I am so, so grateful that we've had this time together today.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Until next time, have a wonderful week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.